decent. So I was looking through Steam for Picross games, which are similar to Minesweeper in that they have squares and numbers. But they're good fun. I've played a couple before and this one looked pretty good. Picross for a cause. I think from what I can gather, at one point you could buy the game and the proceeds went to charity, but as of right now it's free and in fact you can't pay for the game. So it's also quite bright. It's a pretty clean looking black and white mostly, but I'm gonna turn down the lights for you, so it's gonna be a bit dimmer, so that it doesn't flashbang you as soon as you open up the video. Click on the video. So just letting you know, there are some levels, some of the more advanced ones, that include colors, so they might be affected by the brightness. Just something to keep in mind. But why don't we take a quick look at the tutorial, which is some text that explains how to play a Picross game. So, it says, place boxes, left click, where the cell is guaranteed to be filled. Place crosses, right click, where the cell is guaranteed to be empty. There must be at least one space between consecutive clues, i.e. for the clue 3, 1, that's talking about these numbers at the top and on the left, 3, 1. There must be at least one space, and therefore one cross, between the 3 tiles and the 1 tile. Boxes of different colors don't need spaces between them, but still may have them. Boxes of the same color still require spaces between them. Switch colors using tab, the number keys, or the sidebar. Completing a puzzle unlocks a random mural tile in that puzzle's collection. So, just like Minesweeper, it's pretty simple in theory. But the puzzles can get quite complicated when you work with bigger spaces and different colors and things like that. But the end result is you have a nice picture of something. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the first one here, and we can see how things work. So here's our puzzle space, and there's a couple of obvious things we can do. For example, these tens. So this means that there is a block of 10 tiles filled in, and this board is only 10 tiles long. So all of these are filled in, and there's a couple of other 10s here, so those ones and those ones as well on the horizontal side, and then on the top one we have another 10. Perfect. A couple of other ones that we can work with pretty easily are, for example, this 8 and this 1. So this means that there is 1 square, then a gap, and then 8 squares. And if we add those up, 1, 2, plus 8 is 10. So this clue here tells us exactly how all 10 of these squares look. There's one there, then a gap, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. Perfect. Similarly, we have a couple of 7 and 2, 7, 2 clues. So 7, gap, 2. That accounts for all 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then a gap, then 2. And it's the same on the row below. 2, then a gap. Oops. And then all 7 here. And we've made some pretty good progress already. Let's take a look at some of these other ones here. So, we have a 2 and a 4 clue just up here. And some of the squares have already been filled in. If we look at this section down here, we know that this has to be the block of 4 squares altogether. So we're going to have to fill in these 2 to make 4. And then if we look above this, these X's, there is a block of 2, and the 2 squares are consecutive. They're touching. So we can't have something like that. That wouldn't work. That would be a 1, and then a 1, and then a 4. So in fact, the only option is to do that for a block of 2. Perfect, perfect, perfect. We can do something similar with this 4 and 3 clue. If we look at this square, we've kind of ended up with a gap between this one and these 2. It might not necessarily be a blank here. We haven't figured that out just yet, but spoiler alert, it is. We have 1 here and 2 here, and we need to make 4. We need to make 4 consecutive. If we had a square here, then we would have 4 consecutive squares, but there's no space to the right for a 3. So we know that there can't be a square here, and we have to fill up the touching squares to make 4 on the left side, and do the same thing on the right. So we have a 4 and a 3. Perfect, perfect. For this 2 up here, while we can't be 100% sure where the second square is, it has to be touching this 1 square we have already. So it's either on the left or the right. We don't know which side, but we do know that it can't be any further out. So we can fill up all those other spaces with X's. Up here we've actually already found the 1 and the 1. So we can fill up the rest with X's to make our life a bit easier. And now we have an obvious one here on this column. 1 and then 7. Well, the 1 has to be this square here. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then this column, we need to build up the 7 to be touching already have. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 there. We can cross off these blanks, and on these rows we can do something similar. We already know where the right side of the block of squares ends, so we can fill it up on the left, so that we have the right number of squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we made an apple. We made an apple with a nice little horn to celebrate. That looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Shall we move on to another one? Another easy one. The 10 by 10 puzzle. So, just like last time, we can start off by filling in these columns and rows with 10 next to them. Great. But what we don't have is any rows that add up to 10 with the blanks included. So we're gonna have to look at something else. Let's look at this 4. This 4 could be helpful. So we already have 2 squares marked on this row, and we know that all 4 squares need to be consecutive. So if we think about what it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not sure which one just yet, but what we do know is that we can't have any squares that reach outside of those options. So we can cross off those. It's definitely not those ones. We can do something kind of similar for this 6 row down here. But unfortunately we can't do something similar for this 6 row, because the potential options reach all the way across. So we can't mark off any squares that are out of reach. We can do something for this 8 though. We can do something here. So this puzzle is 10 squares across. 10 squares across, and so if we wanted to fit in a row of 8 squares, it's going to reach further than the middle. And what that means is that we're going to have some overlap in the middle, like across the center line. There's going to be some overlap either side, wherever we arrange these 8 squares, there will definitely be some squares there. If we went from the left to the right, we would fill up all 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would look like that. And if we went all the way from the right, it would be mirrored like that. So we can't be 100% sure where all of the 8 squares are, but what we can be sure of is that wherever we put them, there's going to be 6 right in the middle here. In either of the options. So we can't mark these off because it could be there. But it just means that we have some squares in the middle that are 100% marked. we can only really do it if we have a number that is more than half of the squares that we have available. So 8 works here, 6 would work, and we'd be left with 2 squares in the middle like this, but we already had those, so something to keep in mind there. If we look at the row above the 8, we have a 1, and then some blanks, and then 2, some blanks, and then a 1. So while we can't be sure where the ones are, we know that there are 2 blanks either side of this 2. So that's helpful. And for these rows up here, we can mark off all of the blanks because we've found the blocks of 2. Let's look at some of the columns. So these columns with 1 at the top, we can mark all the way down. Because we found the 1. Then we have a 2, so it could be here, or it could be here. But any squares further than that are safe to mark off. And the same over here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. This 3 and this 1 we can't do too much with at the moment. We know that this block is gonna become the 3, and it's either gonna be here or here. But we don't know. We don't know which one, and we can't mark off a blank because the blank on the bottom could be here or here, for example. So we can't do much with these just yet. Just yet. We have some 2s and 2s though, where we've already found 1 block of 2. So 2 blanks there. 2 blanks there. And we've found the 1, 2, 1 here with those X's we've marked off. What do we think this is gonna be? 3, 1. Maybe an airplane. I think it's gonna be like a paper airplane. These 8s though, or this 1 8 actually, we can now fill in. Because these end bits are blanks, the only way we can fit in an 8 is like this. And now we know where the blanks are for these rows of 3. Like that, we can mark those off as well. And let's take a look down here. We can now fill in the 6 because there's only 6 squares left that aren't marked off. We can't quite do the same thing with the 4, but we can do we can fill in squares if we look at the columns instead, where it has to be a 2. So we know it's going to be here, and get ready. Here, it's a plane. It's a plane. It didn't specify that it was paper, but plane was a correct guess. Take a look at that. I'm not sure what this mural tile is. Oops, how do I get back? Is it this? Interesting. I won't do that just yet. But how about we take a look at a slightly more difficult one? We'll go for a 15 by 15 puzzle now. Oh, with lots more numbers. Lots more numbers. Although there are a couple of rows and columns with 15 as the clue. So we can mark all of these off. this is gonna turn out to be. But let's keep working. Let's keep working. Let's keep working. Let's keep working. So, shall we see if there are any rows or columns where the numbers plus the blanks add up to 15? They're pretty easy to work with, but we're going to need some pretty high numbers here. So we have, for example, 8 plus 5 is 13, and a blank is 14, so not what we're looking for. In fact, I don't think we have any of them here. 9, 1 and 1. It's 9, 10, 11 and 2 blanks is 12 and 13. That's okay, that's okay. That's only one way of dealing with things. If we go back to this 5 and the 8 though, we can actually do something here because of these squares that we've already marked off. There's a square right at the top, so this has to be the start of the 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a blank. And then if we work from the other side, there's a square right at the bottom, so this has to be where the 8 starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blank, blank, blank. So we've done that. We've done that row, which is nice. And we can do something similar because of this top row filled in and this bottom row. We can do something similar with all of the columns. So why don't we go ahead and do that from the left to the right. So we have a 5 and a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Blank, blank, blank. We have a 3 and then a 1 and a 5. Let's see what we can do with this. 1, 2, 3, blank, 1, blank. And then from the bottom we'll start with the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blank. So we don't know where this last 1 is. It's somewhere in these 3 squares. But we'll move on for now. We have a 1, blank, and a 4. So that could be going either way from here. We'll move down to the bottom where it's a 1, a blank, and a 6. So we have in these squares we have a 4 and a 6 kind of fit in together. We could do some work to figure out where the squares have to be for each of those, but we can move on to some easier rows instead, or easier columns. So let's go ahead and do that. We have a 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a blank. And then from the bottom we have a 3, 1, 2, 3, and a blank, and a 2. So we can mark that off. Great, 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 great. We have a 3, 1, and a 5. 1, 2, 3, blank, 1, blank. And then from the bottom we have a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blank, 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 blank. We're filling this in now pretty well. I still don't have a good guess as to what it could be though. Next column, 5, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blank. And then a 2 is 1, 2, blank. And then this 2 could be here or up here. So we're just going to be able to mark off those bits. This one is a 2, 2, 2, and a 1. So not many filled in, but we can mark off some of these. Both of these are 2s. So it's going to look something like this, like this, like this. 2, 3, 2, and a 1. 1, 2, blank. From the bottom, 1, oops, blank, then a 2. So we could do some more the squares can't be, but let's move on to an easier column instead. So we have a 1, 8 and a 1, which is going to be pretty nice to work with. We can mark off those 1s, and then the 8 has to be connected in the middle here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So to make the 8, it could either be up here or down here. But we can mark off the squares out of range. Almost done working across these columns. We have a 1, 4, 2, 2. 1, 2. Let's move on to the 1, 2, 4, 2. 1, 2, 4, 2. And 1, 5, 1, 3. 1, 5, 1, 3. There's a 1. Perfect. 1, 1, 9. 1. There's a 1. And a 9. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. So, we've just gone across all the columns on our first pass. So why don't we take a look at the rows now. We have an 8, which is just filling in that blank. Perfect. 1, 4 and 4, and we've already done the work on the columns, so we can start. We can just fill in the blanks on this row, essentially. Perfect. A 3 and a 5, so that will have to be the 3. And then the 5 could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can fill in those middle bits, and then it will be on one. It'll be in one of these now. We have a 1, 2, and a 2. This is gonna have to be the first 2, and so this will be the 1. And then the other 2 is gonna be in one of these squares, so we can mark off those ones that are out of range. We have a 3 and a 5, so this will need to be the 3. And then this will need to be the, the 5 will have to come across this way. Perfect. Any guesses? Any guesses about what this will be? Still don't have a good idea. We have a 5, 1, and a 3, so just fill in these. 5, 1, 3. 1, 4, 4, and a 1, so fill that blank in there. And then the 4 could come across 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So the only overlap there is that that one square. 5 and 3, that'll be the 5, and that'll be the 3. Great. And then 7 is going to be there. Perfect. So we are almost there. Oops, I have made a mistake at some point. These ones coming down here are not correct. So 1. The 1 there, 1, 1. Back that off, so that'll be a 2. We're gonna have to go back across some of these because I've made a mistake. Whoops. 3 and 1. I mean, my guess is that this is gonna be a blank, but I can't be sure. Can't be sure about that one. We do have a 2 here and a 1. So maybe it's not, and one of these is. Well, that definitely is 1 because it's 15. So it's definitely a 3 and then a 1. And a 1 these squares, isn't right, and it has to be this one because the 5 here will go all the way across. So that's going to be an X. Then we need to double check. I guess that is going to be an X here. And then we need to make up the 2 and the 2. 1, 1, 9. Is that more than 9 then? How much is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 2. Cross that off. This is pretty haphazard, but I think it makes sense. 3 and a 5. We still haven't got that there. 1, 4, 4, and a 1. Again, haven't quite got there yet either. Although, might just be a case of filling these in now. 5, 1, 2, 4 here, and a 2. Oh, okay. It's a night sky. That's fun. Yeah, made a mistake there at some point, but it wasn't too hard to unpick. Thankfully. Shall we take a look at, shall we go for the next puzzle here? And I can see a load of 15s, which is nice to see. So we'll go ahead and mark all of these off. Perfect. Oh, and one up here. So luckily for us, these 15s border the puzzle space. So for these 2 numbers, even for the 3 ones, we can build them up on either side and kind of pretty easily mark them all off. So we have an 8 and a 3, so it's going to be an 8 from the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a 3 from the right. There we go. And we'll do the same all the way across. 5 there. These 3 numbers we can still do that with. But we'll probably be missing some information in the middle. So we'll go for the 4 and the 1. And then 1, 2, 3, and the 1, 2, 3, and the 1, 1, 2, and a 1, 2, and a 1, 1, and a 2, 1, oops, 1 here, and a 3 across here, 2, and a 4, and 4, and a 5. Great. So we're almost all the way already. Any guesses? Looks maybe like a donut. Maybe a donut. Something like that. Let's look on the columns. We can mark all of these off because of the 2s down here. And now we're just looking at bits in the middle. So how many squares have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 squares, so these 5s are going to have some overlap in the middle. They're going to have some overlap in the middle because 5 is bigger than half of 8, which is 4. So we're going to have some overlap in the middle here, where we could go from the very top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or from the very bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there'll be some overlap. So we can mark those off already. I don't think there's any other columns or rows where we have a clue that is going to be helpful. We have a 3 here, so it's either going to be on the left or the right, but no further than that. And the same for this 4, it's either going to go across to here or across to there. Mark those off. Maybe an egg. Maybe it's a fried egg. So we can mark those off. These ones actually, we're good with. Let me go ahead and mark those off as well. Technically we don't really need to, but it can be helpful to visualize, right? 7 and a 3. So we're just looking at this space in the middle. And let's see here. So this 4 now has, it doesn't have as much space to go in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's going to be another overlap just here. Just here, and then we have a 4 that's going to be attached to this in some way. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down here is the furthest it will go. 1, 2, 4, or up there. So there's no more overlap. There's no more overlap, but that's as far as it will go. Let's see here, a 3. We're going to get some overlap now. So 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1 in the middle. Oops. And a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to have 3 blocks there. And now this 5 is not going to go as far up. Maximum it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here. So these are blanks. These are blanks. And similarly for the 4, maximum it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So blanks up there. Now there's no room for a 2. Just there, so that is a 2. We can fill in the 5. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And let's see here, we have a 1. And it's not going to be here because we need to fit a 3 in. We have a space with 1, a space with 2, and finally down here a space with 3. So it's going to have to go down here. We'll mark the rest off. It's definitely not a donut or a fried egg now. Mark that off there. A 3. 3 down here. Mark that off there. It's like something broken in half. Eggshell maybe. Mark that off there. A 4, it's gonna have to be like that. And a 4 is gonna have to be there. Then a 3. And this will be the last square. Final guesses. Oh, it's an eye. Okay, I guess I can see that. If you'll excuse the pun. Cool. Shall we maybe try one that's even harder? So we have puzzles that have more than one colour. At the moment we've just been going with like black and white. Landmarks and wonders, holidays and celebrations, and animals. Shall we try a landmark or a wonder? Sounds like it could be cool. Oh, it's a long one. What's that? Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll try this one. There's a couple of columns with 0, so I'll go ahead and mark them off. And then the 17s. They're not going to be. The 17's not going to be in those tiny spaces, of course. Oh, and it's 10. Its height is 10. So I can go ahead and mark off these columns with 10 in them. What do we think? What do we think? Any guesses just yet? Let's pick a couple of columns and rows to look at. So the 9 here, there's 9 here, there's 10 available spaces, and 9 is of course bigger than half of 10. So it's going to extend at its maximum across the middle, and we're going to be able to fill in all of the overlap. And the same with the 8, but not quite as much, of course. Not quite as much. A couple of 8s over here as well, to do the same thing with. And in fact, these top 4 are all 3s, so we can mark those off. Boop. And then the next bunch are 2s, so we can cross those off. And the rest of this column, and then these are 2s, so we can mark that. This is a 3 and a 20, so it's not going to be there. And I have a feeling it's going to be there. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, well, we'll get rid of that one. That 10 was already there, and this 9 was already there, so we know that it's all of these ones, and then one of those. Okay. Similarly, for the 17, we can go across from the left and fill in all of the blanks. And then how many have we got? We've got 5, 10, 15. So there's 2 more to go. Maximum it's going to go this far on the right. This far on the right. And if we went from the left, and then if we started from this square, it's going to go at least as far as that. So we can go across to there, and we have our 2. Perfect. There's a 2 and a 4 here, so it's going to have to be there for the 2. There for the 2. And there's a 6 and a 2, so this is going to have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. There's a 9 here, so we're going to start from the top and just work down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. All of these are 2s, so we can mark all of these off. Sorry, I was just wondering why it, okay, sure. I guess that makes sense. I was just wondering why this row was all grayed out, slightly grayed out, which means that we have kind of found everything. But these ones weren't, even though it's the same 2 here. I think it's just related to the rest of the board and how we found the 2, 2, 4, 3, 3, and 3, even without any crosses. So we can cross all of these off, even though we've already found some of the rows. And I guess for the rows that we found, actually, we can fill them in with the crosses. Should help out on the columns. Cross. And some of these columns are good to go as well. It's going to be a 2, so it's going to overlap there. 2. Oops. Any guesses as to the landmark or wonder that we have here? I'm thinking maybe like a skyline or something. Let's keep going and we'll see if we can guess. We're looking for a 4, so it's definitely not in that gap, and in fact it's down here. 2 is going to be up there. 1 is already done. A 2 and a 4 is going to have to be like that, and a 9. So some of these rows and columns we can go ahead and mark off a couple of 20s and a couple of 30s as well. That's helpful. We have a 30 right at the bottom, so we can work our way up on the bottom numbers here. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to mark off these though, because we've got a 1 and a 1. So 15 all the way up. Perfect. 17 is going to be the same, but 2 extra. There we go. 6 and a 1. We're just going to mark off these ones. Oops. 17 and a 17. Great. A couple more 6 and 1s. A 19 is going to be almost all the way. A few more 1s to mark off here. Any ideas so far? It feels like it's going to be something really recognizable. I mean, it's going to be a landmark or a wonder, so kind of recognizable by definition. 15. Cool. Mark off the rest of these. Great. Great. Okay. I think I'm going to make a guess that this is the Colosseum in Rome. That's my guess. All of these 2s we can cross off because we've found all of them already. And I'm not sure about my Colosseum guess now. But I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm just doubting myself. And this one's great. Great. These 28s, we can work from the left and go all the way across, which is going to take us to there. 28, 28. I'm just trying to think, if it's not the Colosseum, what could it be? A couple of 6s that are going to come up from this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. Some more 6s. 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. Oh, maybe the what's it called? The Parthenon. Is it the Parthenon? I can't remember what it's called. I don't think it's at the temple. It's a temple in Italy, in Rome, I think. Temple to Athena. A couple more 6s. I can picture, I think, what this one is in my mind, but I can't remember exactly what it's called. Fill in these blanks. And almost there. Just 2 more to go. Okay, it wasn't. It's the Brandenburg Gate. I mean, the artistry is limited, so I'm going to use that excuse as to why I didn't recognize the Brandenburg Gate. I think, shall we finish off with, let's finish off with an animal. Let's finish off with an animal for now, although I'm excited to try out the multicolored one puzzles, but I don't think I have the brain power to do them right about now. So this one is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 across, and 5, 10, 15 down. So some of these larger numbers, like 10, are going to have some overlap. across the midpoint. At least. So there's 8. It could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then for each of these ones, we're going to get some overlap of 1 extra either side. And then 11 is going to be more than that, and a 12. 13, oops. 13 and a 14 goes almost all the way across. And a 13, 13, 12, 11, and back to 10. Cool, we've made some pretty good progress already, just with those ones. And a couple more overlaps just over here. So a 10, a 9, 7 doesn't quite make it halfway across, there's no guaranteed overlap. Just there. But we can work with some of these rows now, so 4 and a 15, so these, all of these ones that touch the edge we can work across. So that's 5, 10, 15, so there's a gap there, that's 17 and that's 18, so we can cross those ones off. This one's 19 though, so go all the way across there. And 26 is going to go even further. We have 5, 10, 15, 20, 6. There we go. 25 goes almost as far. Oops. Sorry for these ones, we can't quite guarantee the same thing. There's still going to be some overlap, but it could be, the final square could be here. Or here. Yeah, could be either side, so we can't quite do the same thing there. But there is going to be some overlap. Let's see, we have a 5 here. And a 7. 7. Oops, 7. So let me double count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, cool. And an 8. And then a 9 goes all the way here. We don't have the same cross on this one, so it could be the same, but it could run all the way up instead. If it did go all the way up, we would only go as far as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So those two are marked off, but otherwise we can't be sure just yet. Let's see. We can do, so this is a 2, and there's a 5 as well, somewhere on the left. So it could be anywhere here, but that's all good to cross off. And then the 1, of course, not very helpful right now. But we have a 3, 2, and a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. We've marked off the 6 already. We've marked off the 6 already. Not sure why that's not graying out, unless I've done something wrong. Not sure. That's okay. We'll ignore that for now, I think. But I'm going to mark those off. And these are all going to be good, of course, because we can't fit 10 blocks all the way up there. And then we've got a 4 and a 10, 4 and a 10, 6 and a 6 and an 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this will be 10. Great. I wonder, are these wrong? Could these be wrong? And that's why they're not graying out. I'm not sure. I feel like my logic checks out so far. Oh, okay. Sure. I get it. It's because there were gaps. fit. Sorry, that was confusing me a bit, but we got to the bottom of it. Any guesses as to what this could be? I'm not sure just yet. It seems like it's got a big body, though. So maybe like an ant or something. Anyway, let's look at these. So we have 10. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's all going to be filled in there. 12, 13, 13. Cool. So we can do those ones there and then work across from the right for these. So 19 is 5, 10, 15, 19, 5, 10, 15, 21, 5, 10, 15, 21, 2, 3, mark this off, and 4, cool. So we can cross all those, and we have a better idea of what this animal might be, I think. It looked like it had legs. It doesn't anymore. I think my guess is going to be a snail. I think it might be a snail. Let's look here. So we have a 10. There's 11 squares open. That needs to be crossed off though, so we can mark that. And the 9 all the way up from the bottom. Oops, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. We can get rid of all of these as well, because they're grayed out, so we have found all of the squares. And actually, once we've done this, it should be pretty straightforward to finish off, I think. Cool. We have the 1, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 6, 4. Well, that doesn't look like a snail now. But my updated guess is going to be camel. I think it's a camel. Yay, we got one. We made a great guess. And I think that's a great place to end it. I had loads of fun though. I had loads of fun playing something that was similar to Minesweeper, but a bit more varied. I hope that you enjoyed this as well. That you found it relaxing, maybe helpful if you're having trouble with Picross. And I hope that you come back again soon for another one. So